What if you could get more done by doing nothing? What if you could actually write a book by doing nothing? Sounds crazy, right? Well, in this video I'm going to tell you how people have done that and how you can do too. If you want to become more productive and more effective, then make sure to hit subscribe. This is actually a quote by a French mathematician, physicist, inventor, philosopher, and writer. And he has a really good quote that all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room. So this is what was said like 400 years ago. And there's actually great wisdom in this quote, and this is more important today than ever. So he was basically saying that, the sole cause of man's unhappiness is that he does not know how to stay quietly in this room, or that doesn't know how to stay at home and enjoy, or that could bear actually living in a town all their lives. So point is that like a man is tortured by ego and boredom, and that's really like the cause of all evil. So, and typically if you think about boredom, today's society pretty much considers it as a sin. And everyone has this like device all of us have this device in our pockets that basically we can take out and like reduce these moments of boredom in our lives. And people are like obsessively filling every single idle moment by checking their phones. And that means that there's no more idle time waiting when you're waiting for a train, waiting for a flight or something like that. When you actually give rest for your mind to wander around and really like think about whatever. And this is nothing about the device itself is not bad. There's nothing wrong with technology. It's just about how you use tech. And I personally love tech and all the possibilities it's giving, but it's just about how do you actually use technology. So this is about really like deliberately adding this time of doing nothing to your days. And yeah, it was interesting what also like Victor Hugo said like 1862 that there's something more terrible than a hell of suffering. It's a hell of boredom. So society really likes to gives us this idea that having boredom really feels like uncomfortable. And if you have boredom, then you're simply not like you're doing something wrong. You shouldn't feel bored at all. So that leads to this kind of expectation that always online, always available, and then like working crazy hours. And those people who are bored must be really unhappy. But this type of thinking is really like toxic. So it's kind of a funny thing that boredom and idleness by contrast, those are things for the underachievers, the lazy and the loafers, and it's something like associated with mental dullness, that lacking in aim or purpose. Like it has this kind of image that okay, if you have boredom, if you have idle time, then you are lacking something, you're lacking ambition or something like this. And whereas there's a lot of good things that boredom can actually do for you, and it increases creativity, and it reduces stress and all sorts of things. So letting your mind wander, especially with like all the distractions we have today, that's really crucial for creativity. And you shouldn't think idle time as something negative or something that will take something away from you. And it's basically the opposite. Like adding moments of boredom can actually do wonders for your thinking, meaning that you can actually achieve many things when you're just like basically doing nothing and just letting your mind wander and think about whatever. And there's a good point. I mean, there's actually many studies that like kind of prove the effectiveness of this kind of boredom. And it basically means that you don't have like stimuli. You don't have anything that yours is cluttering your mind. And it's so typical that it might be that like the average person doesn't get any of this idle time with their minds, because all the time they're filling it with something. For example, just watching mobile phones or just listening to music. Like maybe people are going from one place to another. They are listening to music, they're listening to podcasts, they are listening to audiobooks or something like this. And the point is that it's not really about what you're doing with your device. Point is that do you have this kind of like idle time for your mind? Do you have time where you can just let your mind rest, and you don't like give your mind such a huge amount of stimuli all the time? And I actually used to do this, that every kind of idle time I had, I used to listen to audiobooks. So that meant that, okay, if I was taking the dog out, if I was like putting my daughters to sleep, and I was like all the time listening to different audiobooks. And I still do it at times, but I don't do it all the time, and it's not really something good to do, because then you're just cluttering your mind, and it will just basically inhibit your ability to think more creatively. So there was a lot of studies here. Here's one example of a study, like where there's two groups. So another group had this kind of like idle time. And when the researchers then asked these two groups to think about different kind of vehicles. I mean, the one group said that cars or something related with car, but the group that was actually idle and was kind of like being bored, I mean, their mind started to wander around, and they came up with much more like creative answers. For example, people responding that camel can be a vehicle as well. So this is really important to like give yourself this boredom. And really, one fascinating thing is that like people who lack this kind of time and have really like cluttered time, they are actually much more prone to be frustrated in challenging situations. So you get more frustration, which actually also leads to stress. And many of the best ideas come during these idle moments. For example, when you're just commuting to work or taking a shower or a long walk. So that's the thing, that I mean, we really might be at our most creative when we are bored. I remember like one Finnish author saying that he has written something like 4 books just by idle time when he's actually moving from one place to another. I mean, that's pretty crazy. He said that he's written 4 books only on his idle time. And it basically means that, okay, he's just thinking about, okay, I will write about this and this and that kind of thing. Oh, this is a really good idea when he's walking or like having this kind of idle time. Then when he gets to a computer, he just writes down all the ideas that he had. But that's good to think about it. Like someone is saying that he has written like several different books just by using his this kind of idle time. So yeah, so I mean there's a lot of studies saying that, I mean, you should basically let your mind be idle, and that's pretty much what like boredom means here. It means that you have idle time, you're not doing anything, and that means that you are not like actively even using your mind. You are not like doing brainstorming or any kind of thing. It just means that, okay, you have no task to do at the time. So this is also really fascinating that I mean, different kind of scans have shown that, I mean, connections between different parts of our brains increase when we are daydreaming. So that's really fascinating that like that there's more things happening like when you have idle time, when you are really not like thinking about anything. And people like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, I mean, they are really famous in scheduling just time to just sit and think. They don't have anything on their calendars. I mean, it's pretty much that they book specific weeks from their calendar when they have basically nothing to do, when they are able to just sit down and think about things. And good way, this is actually a really good point that plant the seeds of the problem in your mind by first mulling it over and then tucking it away. So that means that you first like, let's say that you have some kind of problem, then the first thing is that you actually define the problem. You define like different things regarding it, and then you just kind of leave it alone. It's like just sleeping on it. And I've actually done this many times. And one example is that when I was doing with one of our teams, I mean, we were doing brainstorming. We were like brainstorming different kind of one kind of like sales funnel with offer and all the stuff. And we were like kind of stuck. So everyone was writing their ideas, but we really couldn't come up with a good offer that made sense for that audience. So we spent something like 1 hour just brainstorming about it. But I mean, in the end, the situation was that, okay, we didn't like finish the whole thing. We were kind of like stuck, and whatever we had on the paper, just, I mean, it didn't make sense. It didn't feel good at all. So I just like decided, I mean, let's just leave it be and let's come back to it later on. And I mean, during the evening and next morning, I mean, when I was walking around, I actually like got this kind of like light bulb moment. Actually, this would make so much sense for the offer. I mean, this is exactly what we need to do. So I like, just by having this kind of time to think about it on my own, I mean, it really had a like great big impact. And it was an example how you can really kind of think about things on your like subconscious. That's because, I mean, I wasn't like actively thinking about it or anything. It was just that, okay, I had basically defined this problem that, okay, we need to come up with offer. These are the different kind of elements to it. But I mean, we need to, that's the problem, that there's no offer that would make sense to this audience. So then, I mean, the next day I pretty much came up with this really good offer. And it was only by just basically walking around and giving myself time to really think about it. And I would say like this is the most important thing of a business owner, like having time to think. And you cannot do that if you're like working crazy hours and you don't have anyone to delegate it. So that's what it really means, that you should basically delegate everything in order to have this time for yourself, in order to buy yourself this time that I'm able to just to think around, think about different things, and just sit around and basically do nothing. So that's actually the best thing you can do as a business owner. Buy yourself time to think. And I would say like that's the number one thing for any kind of business owner, like having enough of idle time. And I mean, that's the whole point why you delegate. You basically delegate to I mean, pretty much get more time. And there was actually interesting thing also, that it can increase your motivation for whatever it is that you are doing. And so this scans shows a really interesting thing, that when actually all different parts of your brain are like connecting, it means that, I mean, then people are like able to come up with really like these disparate ideas and even envision things and experience that haven't happened in the realm of their knowledge or experience. So you can really have this kind of like systemic approach and strategic approach for your like idle time just by doing these one things. So really like defining your questions, defining your problems, and defining your like requirements, different kind of elements related to do it, and then basically just let it sit down and rest, and then coming back to it later time. But thing is that, I mean, if you are 100% buckled down to different things, then you won't able to like really have this time for yourself. And I mean, we have said it this before, that it's a really good way to think about your business as a game. It's the great game of business. So treat the whole thing as a game where you make moves and something happens. Then you do something else and something else happens. So it's simple cause and effect. So this really allows you to kind of like take out the emotions of what's happening, and so that will ease your stress levels and really can transfer your mood and atmosphere. It really helps that you are not taking things so deadly serious, and because when problems happen, and I mean, there's all the time, there will always be problems. So it allows you that you are not taking things. You have this kind of better mindset how to approach the problems at hand. So yeah, that's pretty much sums it up for me. Point is to add these moments of boredom to your life.
Give a thumbs up if you like this video and let me know in the comments your biggest takeaway. If you have any questions, just write on the comments and I will make sure to reply everyone. Remember to subscribe to the channel. If you need my advice or want me to help you, then just hit the link and subscribe to my free training. See you soon.